and reflection.
Let us be mindful of the needs of all our citizens and advance only those causes that will ensure peace and harmony in our community now and always.
Acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather today as the land traditionally used by the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Chinootan people. We acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous peoples with whom we share this land today. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, we have some minutes. I'll need a motion that the following minutes be adopted as presented. Minutes of the May 12th, 2026 council meeting, the minutes of the May 26th, 2026 committee of the whole meeting. I motion that. Councilor Fedden, second by Councilor Wagner. Any discussion? Favor? We do have a motion from closed session that I'm going to bring forward at this point. The recommendation is that the 2025 Chief Administrative Officer Performance Evaluation Report be received for further that the 2026-2027 objectives and strategic priorities for the Chief Administrative Officer as reviewed in closed session be approved and presented. Move for that, Councilor Wagner, second by Councilor. Discussion. I need a motion. The council rise and go into the committee of the whole to receive reports and recommendations. Moved by Councilor Beck, second by Councilor Hurgett. All in favor, and that's carried. We'll move it to Road and Bridge. Councilor Hurgett. Thank you, Mr.
R&B 8/2026 Linden Lane Construction Tender. Contract number 2026-09. Need a motion whereas half the total tendered amount will be funded from the infrastructure reserve and the other half will be funded from the recreation facilities reserve. And 25% of the recreation portion will be funded by the Woolwich Community Health Center. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the award of contract number 2026-09 for the Linden Lane construction tender to 5 Star Paving Incorporated from Cambridge for a total tendered amount of $281,670.03 plus applicable HST. Can I have a mover? Councilor Wagner, seconded by Councilor Sutton. Director has a report.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Hurgett. So I had presented this project at the budget deliberation for the 2026 capital budget. This project came up relatively quickly. It wasn't high on our priority list until the Woolwich Community Health Center addition at the Linwood Community Center was proposed. And it made a lot of sense to pave this road and connect it with the parking lot. We weighed multiple design options and settled on a very simple paving project, including curbs on Linden and some sidewalk and curb and asphalt in the parking lot of the community center. 5 Star Paving out of Cambridge was a little bitter. Our engineers are very familiar with this company from various commercial parking lot restoration projects. Very comfortable moving forward with them as per their recommendation letter. The tender came in under the budget, and the cost of the project, as you heard in the recommendations, being shared 3 ways. 50% borne by Public Works from the infrastructure reserve, 50% by recreation, of which 25% is borne by the Woolwich Community Health Center, which equates to 12.5% of the overall project. There was a question from a couple of councillors recently about the developers paying for the Public Works portion of the project. There is no development agreement or plan of subdivision or anything like that for this. Through working with Tim and Jeff to determine some of the factors here with the budget, with the development charges reserve, and if whether there was any existing agreements or anything like that. There was a lot of help today in dealing with that and late notice. So this project at $150,000 is, relatively speaking, a small amount of money for road construction projects. And if council wants to fund this project through these am perfectly fine supporting that. My recommendation would be to go ahead with the to fund it with the infrastructure reserve, the public works portion. But again, that's totally up to council. It doesn't make a difference to me either way. I think it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So that would be my recommendation on this one. But we're very happy with the tender as it was awarded, or as it will be awarded today. Yeah, with Edmund.
Thank you. Any questions for the director? Councilor Dick?
I just had one maybe question comment, but yeah, I think this is a good project and finishes out. Just with any streetscaping, I think there's more to just asphalt, like the outside of it, the softscaping. I'm wondering if there's consideration for trees and that along this roadway as well, or just the paving at this time.
The curb and paving on the Ring are the only items in the tender for that section. We don't have any trees planned. It's a fairly well-established area already with trees fairly close to the edge of the road. We're happy to work with the residents if they'd like a tree planted here and there. We do have in our development standards, we have that a little bit, so what type of trees and how often and things like that. So if there are some residents out there that would like them to be planted, I'm happy to help with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just wondering when you plan to have it open, and is it
You have to wait for the construction to finish up.
Once awarded today, we're going to work with the contractor at the health center, and when the timing works out, we will start construction in there. And the road our plan right now, we've opened it already, just strip topsoil and put some granular material in. And the idea is to use it as a construction entrance, so we don't have all the construction traffic coming and going through the community center parking lot. And we will open it as soon as the asphalt and the curb is in, and so we don't see any real reason to keep it close.
call the question? All in favor? And that's carried unanimous.
Okay, we will move to admin and finance, and we're going to start off with a staff presentation. Darren Renee, got that right? Our auditor, with regard to our audited financial statements.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. As mentioned, Darren Rennie, I'm the engagement partner from NMP LLP. I sit in the Waterloo office, so just up the street here. Also with me here today is Mike Hennifer, my colleague. He is the engagement manager. It's our second year working with Jeff and team on the annual audit process. I would like to just refresh and recap. The external audit process is really providing an opinion on the financial health and financial statements. So are those financial statements accurately reflecting the financial position and financial performance of the Township of Wellesley? So it's really, providing that opinion on the financial statement. It's not really designed to detect fraud and things of that nature. That being said, we do consider that as part of the audit plan, but it's not a forensic audit. So I would like to start with as an opener. This year, we decided to take an approach and build a basic PowerPoint to kind of go through the audit plan, audit results, and then some quick updates of the financial statements in the slide. It's a little bit easier with a presentation for your viewing understanding. So the first part of the slide, if we flip to the next page here, engagement status. We are really in the position to issue our audit report, some administrative items there. Main things being council approval of financial statements, collection of a signed representation letter for management, and ensuring we haven't missed anything in the financial statements, subsequent events. So if council is aware of anything that looks off, a major event that's happened, a lawsuit, things of that nature, that we should be capturing and disclosing, let us know as part of this presentation right now. The next slide just mentions that, as mentioned, everything's good. We're substantially done following this presentation. So that's that slide there. And the following slide is risk areas and responses. So one of the things we are required as auditors, community audit standards says in Canada is to communicate to council those charged with governance. What are those significant risk areas part of the audit plan? So really, there's always a few in any organization, any township that have, we call it elevated risk, right? It's part of our audit requirements to consider what are those areas, right, for the township. So it's pretty consistent with other townships. So for you, we have these two areas on the screen. I won't read the entire slide here, but really it's revenue, specifically sort of user charges, things that have some optionality on when you book the entry, how much do you book, that sort of thing. There's obviously bylaws that govern how much certain things cost, rentals of arenas and that sort of thing. So we kind of say that's an increased risk in the revenue area. And happy to report no issues with the procedures performed. Everything was at the prescribed rates. The cash was collected, so nothing concerned with the testing there. And the second one is management override internal control. So this is kind of a catch-all where any finance team in any organization and township has the opportunity to book entries, move things around, to achieve objectives, et cetera, like that. So it's kind of a manual override, right? Because finance books the entries. So we look at manual entries that fit certain criteria, big dollar values, things that are being booked to accounts that don't typically get entries. So, if you have a revenue account, you shouldn't have a debit in there, so that should be an expense. So we look at things like that, unusual entries, and we test that they are real transactions and they're approved. So again, all good news there. No concerns with the entries booked for all those things that were sampled there. So those are the two higher risk areas. So nothing to be concerned of there. Next slide is just a variety of things here. Just all sort of good normal stuff. No difficulties working with management. No identified or suspected fraud. No suspected or identified non-compliance with laws and regulations part of the audit. Going concern is always an important one. What that means is the township financially in a good position to carry on doing what it's doing. And again, all good there. No concerns with respect to the going concern assumption. We use materiality to guide our audit plan and strategy, and that's about $630,000. So again, doesn't mean we don't look at transactions below that. It just kind of guides how many samples do we look for expenses, payroll, revenue, that sort of thing. So, so that's all fairly consistent with the prior year. Following slide mentions there's no concerns on the internal controls implemented by the finance team. So there's appropriate approvals and that sort of thing that we're seeing throughout the audit process. So that's also good news to you as council. Other matters slide is reporting that we are independent of the corporation of Township of Wellesley, which obviously is an important part of being an independent auditor, that we can make that statement and go through all the processes that we have. So that's kind of the audit process and conclusion. So really all good news there from that lens. And then the following few slides here is a few financial highlights. Again, this is all derived from the full financial statements, right? So I think that's in the package as well. I wasn't planning on getting into the details on that one during this evening, but happy to entertain any questions that we have. This is really just those key sort of balance sheet income statement takeaways. So starting with the balance sheet here, we call it the statement of financial position. We can see total assets in green, increased from 88.5 million up to 90 million. So a good modest growth there. And really it's, just a function of, growing and building the assets of the organization. The biggest change there would be within accounts receivable and taxes receivable. And that's mostly just some residual rec center funding that was received after year end. So a little bit of a timing difference there, but overall nothing too volatile on the asset side. Liability side is, as of December 31, what do we owe or what have we not fully earned? And pretty consistent information there. So you have some long-term debt that's just being paid down, down from 10.5 to 10 million. And deferred revenue is sort of an accounting nuance of certain things that we've, received funding for that we have to spend in future periods, which is really, the CCBF gas tax and certain development charges. So that's the 4 million there. So very, very stable, very, very predictable balance sheet. Nothing out of the unusual there. When we take the total assets minus total liabilities, we have accumulated surplus and reserves of 73 million, so up from 71.5 million. So we're kind of building our reserves up in aggregate, which is good news. And if we go over to the next slide, we'll have the income statement of operations. So this is in the 12 months. What did we earn in revenues? What did we spend in expenditures? Always like to highlight this is prepared under public sector accounting standards. So it's sort of a standardized set of rules that all sort of townships, cities, municipalities would follow. So it's not cash basis, right? So that's important because we might have spent some money, but it doesn't always get picked up here. It might be amortized, for instance, with road work and rec center and that sort of thing. So total revenues is slightly down, 18 million down to 15 million. That's really all to do with funding for the rec center for the most part. So everything else is sort of static or sort of growing, right? So tax revenues up a little bit, user charges is up a little bit, and then the blend between the other two buckets is really how these different sort of government grants have sort of funded and flowed out. So that dropped a little bit in 2025. On the expenditure side, very, very consistent year over year, 12.9 last year up to 13.4 million in 2025. So if you want to call it sort of inflationary and the township's growing, that's an element there. And then surplus revenue, less our expenses, we're at about 1.7 in 2025, down from just under 6 million in 2024. Now, someone that is an accountant might ask, at the pretty big surplus, why is it so high or whatever? But it's always important to note that, again, like I said, this is an accounting surplus, right? So it's not cash basis. So if you think about that 2025 number, 1.7 million, we did spend about 1.6 million on capital assets, right? So really most of that surplus is being invested into roads and things of that nature, and we see that through an amortization that's within some of these numbers, but it's sort of a hidden number. So if you want to think about it, if you adjust for all those things, we're kind of we're not break even, we're slightly above break even, but we're not overspending our money and running deficits, right? So I think it's a good story overall, and that's the nuance of the various businesses. The next slide is the reserves and accumulated surplus. So we talked about before, assets less liabilities gets dumped into our equity or our reserves or accumulated surplus. So lots of information here. It's just sort of showing how that's grown from 71.5 to 73 million here. So this is all the internal reserves that are tracked and maintained by the finance team. You can see the tax rate stabilization reserve at the top there, still sitting at 700 grand there. And you have the various other reserves and money that's tied up in capital assets. That's the biggest one there, 64 million. So the biggest chunk of where you've deployed sort of your wealth as a township is obviously capital assets. Again, not abnormal by any there. So I think that's really it from the finance side. The other side, the sort of general marketing, NMP's full service. If you ever have any issues other than auditing and accounting, we have teams that help. Cybersecurity, selecting IT software, that sort of thing. So it's just sort of additional information that we share with all the clients that we work with. But that concludes my audited financial statement and audit process for this year.
Okay, questions? Yes, Councilor Hershey.
Maybe it's more for Jeff. Invested in Innova Energy Corporation, the 12 million. Is that the shares that we would own?
Yeah, that is directly related to the shares.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be our original, I'll call it cost of the shares, and then we follow what's called equity accounting. So as it generates net income, we pick up our percentage of the net income. So you'll see that kind of slowly growing over the years. So it's growing it's really just tying to the growth in the investment in the shares. Yeah, thank you.
Questions? I had one. On the one slide a little earlier on, you mentioned that there's $90 million in assets. And I was curious as to what that is composed of. I mean, we did an asset management review just recently, and it indicated we had over $400 million in assets. So I'm just trying to understand the difference.
Yeah, it might be that this is amortized down, and maybe that is unamortized. I don't have the story of that.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. So we're talking about the replacement value or the value of our assets to replace over time versus the amortized value that we're reflecting in the financial statements.
So still not clear.
So if the rec center costs 30 million, we might be amortizing that over, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 years. So the accounting value here, the 64 million of capital assets, which is the biggest portion of that 90 million, would show that being amortized down over time. Whereas the day one cost might be the 30 million. That would be both same thing, right? We might be amortizing that over 20 years. Again, I don't have the accounting policy in front of me, but that's the kind of idea. So it might be an element of the original cost. So if you had to replace the cost of, say, road versus for accounting, we might, one of those roads might be only be left in the accounting useful or remaining value. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. And I guess the biggest question is, what do you consider our financial position to be very healthy?
Yeah. Like I said, that going concern sort of slide I talked a little bit about. We're running surpluses, whether it's small or moderate sized, and our reserves are looking healthy. So yeah, no concerns from, call it, your financial viability in the upcoming years. We always, for accounting audit purposes, we think about next 12 years, next 12 months. That's kind of the minimum bar, but we also kind of look at cash spend and reserves and that sort of thing. And could you take a downturn? And there's enough in the reserves there that you should be able to weather a storm. So no concerns from a financial health and position at year end there.
It's all good news. So
it is good news. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. We have a report coming, I think. AF&P 26/2026, and the motion is that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the 2025 year audited financial statements as presented by the Township Auditors and then PLLP. Could I have a motion to that effect? Councilor Dick, second by Councilor Herget. Any further questions? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. I think I give a lot of credit to our staff. I think they've understand they work very well with your staff, and I think to balance each of their budgets on an annual basis speaks a lot about the quality of staff that we have here. So I congratulate our staff for the work that they do to have this type of financial balance. So thank you.
On time and on time.
It's all good. Thanks. Okay, AF&P 2026. The recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the transition from the current Lucidity Enterprise Asset Management System to Trimble Unity, including the associated implementation costs of $34,655 to be funded from the general reserve. Could I have a motion to that effect? Councilor Brick, or Councilor Wagner, Councilor Seven, and who were doing that? Not Nathan.
Thank you, acting councilors. So in 2022, the township implemented Lucidity as its asset management system. And this was at a time when both the township's asset management and GIS programs were in the early stages of development. As Lucidity was used in practice, and as the asset management and GIS programs continued to mature, several limitations became apparent. Staff identified challenges related to GIS integration, product and system support, resource requirements, and long-term sustainability. Based on internal staff experience, discussions with peer municipalities and vendors, Trimble Unity, formerly known as CityWorks, was identified as the most suitable alternative to address these challenges in a cost-effective and sustainable way. The proposed system offers a GIS-centric platform, better aligns with the township's operational needs and staffing capacity, and positions the township to support future growth and our long-term asset management objectives. Staff are therefore recommending that council approve the transition from Lucidity to Trimble Unity. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Yes, Councillor Hargett.
Just looking at your cost chart there, so
You paid your yearly fee for Lucity, correct?
So the yearly fee for Lucity was due in June, and we extended it by only 6 months, so it was about half the annual cost.
and you need those 6 months for the transition, or
Yes, the 6 months. So transition or implementation of Unity, if approved, would start around September and go into January of 2027.
okay, and then after that there would be no more Lucity charges.
Yes, that's right.
Questions? Call a question, all in favor? And that's carried. We move, also need now that the committee of the whole rise and council resume and report, moved by Councillor Wagner, second by Councillor Seven, all in favor, and that's carried. That the report of the committee of the whole be adopted as set forth in the motions and actions detailed above, moved by Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget, all in favor. And that there's no information items to be pulled up, but I'll need a motion that the information package be accepted as presented, moved by Councillor Wagner, second by Councillor Seven, all in favor. CAO update.
Thanks, Manuel. York University is doing a research study on the 4-day work week. They've reached out to the Township of Wellesley to get feedback from some of our staff members who have been living the experience. A handful of our staff members have agreed to be interviewed, and they'll provide input into this research project. WRPS is rolling out a CCTV program to install cameras at strategic locations throughout the region, and this is in efforts to combat crime. WRPS will be attending an upcoming council meeting to discuss this program with you as council. Lastly, the annual backyard barbecue is being held next Friday at the Recreation Complex. We'll have live music, kids activities, barbecue available, and fireworks to end off the night. You can see everybody out to that event, and happy to take any questions.
So with regard to the cameras, have they identified locations yet, or is that premature?
They've identified locations that are strategic in nature. They haven't identified exactly where cameras will go yet. But they did receive some federal funding for this as well.
Okay, then we'll move on to bylaws. So I'll need a motion that bylaws 20, 21, 22, 20, I'm going to read the bylaws first. There's quite a few of them here. So bylaw 26, bylaw to provide for the final cost levy of the Widener Drain Lever in the Township of Wellesley in the regional municipality of Waterloo. Bylaw 21, 2026, a bylaw to provide for the final cost levy of the Lichty-Diebold Drain in the Township of Wellesley in the regional municipality of Waterloo. Bylaw 22, 2026, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 31, 2025 as amended by bylaw 33, 2025 and 17, 2026, being a bylaw to establish the fees and charges for various services provided by the municipality. Bylaw 23, 2026, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 28, 2006, being a bylaw for the township, a zoning bylaw for the Township of Wellesley, and then bylaw 24, 2026, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council. I need a motion that the bylaws be read the first and second time, moved by Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget, all in favor. That's carried, that the same bylaws be read a third time and passed in the Madam Clerk. Be authorized to sign and seal the bylaw under the corporate seal, moved by Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Wagner, all in favor. That's carried. We have a special, next meeting is a special council meeting, statutory public meeting on June 18th. That's to deal with our official plan. Committee of the whole meeting, June 23rd, 2026, and a council meeting on July 7th, 2026. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Wagner, all in favor, and that's carried.